Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everybody. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. How is the sound? How is the video? I've decided to go a little differently this time without the microphone and did some experiments connectivity wise. Not sure if it's gonna make any difference, but we'll see. Hi Natalie, thank you so much for a lovely review, the comment on my yesterday's tour. The weather has changed. It's been actually a lovely day. Hi Satyam. Thank you so much, Christine. Good to know that it's all good. Thank you, Christine, for so much for your tips yesterday. And well, it's been a little busy here, so if I haven't reached out to you yet, if I haven't replied to your messages, hi Cindy, it's simply because it's been a little bit busy. And to be honest, I've been to this place already 3 times today. I've done 2 in-person 3-hour tours of the Jewish heritage back to back. So it's been a very Jewish Sunday to me, which is fine. I love this area very well, and I totally don't mind doing this. I'm enjoying it very much. You know how terribly I miss in-person tours, and I'm so grateful to Stefan and Catherine, well, Amsterdam Experiences, for this opportunity to help them out, because, well, this is the high season here, tulip season, and this city, oh my goodness, there are so many tourists here, there's so many people, so you can imagine all sorts of things happen. Hi Richard, good to see you. Yeah, so where am I? This is a Jewish heritage tour of Amsterdam. Before we begin with the tour, and you may have figured out that I have to be somewhere by a certain Jewish organization. Actually, this is the synagogue over there. But before we get down to the tour, there's a little announcement to make. Yesterday, I was not able to run one of my tours, my Zoom tour. I messed up with the links. It was my fault, definitely, because that tour was scheduled way before I came to the Netherlands, and there was something wrong with me fixing the time zone. So this tour didn't happen yesterday, but it's going to happen tonight. There's going to be 2 tours in addition to this one. It's going to be the tour of St. Petersburg, which I will be running a little differently from what's written in the tour description, but I hope you're okay with that. And as usual, I'm taking you to Jerusalem, this time to American Colony. This is another episode, another premiere. So every weekend I manage to deliver new premieres of Jerusalem, and trust me, there is so much more to share, but since it's been a little bit crazy here, number of my virtuals kind of decreased a little bit, but only a tiny little bit, because nearly every day I'm also running well, private virtual tours, all sort of incentives and B2B tours. So it's just not that not that I don't want to do my usual thing, but it's just a little bit different this time. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Enough of me babbling of all sorts of things. Let's get down to the tour. So I'm gonna be switching the camera, and I'll start with the tour. It's getting a little windy, so I'm not entirely sure if the connectivity is going to be okay and if you'll be able to hear me okay, but I have all sorts of microphones with me, this headset, my wireless set. We'll see how it goes. So I'm pretty much I would say ready for all sorts of conditions, weather conditions. So we are in the Jewish Quarter. Normally this is where all the Jewish heritage tours begin, by the Portuguese synagogue. There you go. And in 2024, when we only, well, just left the Netherlands and settled down in Georgia, I did a number of pre-recorded tours of Amsterdam. I had a lot of footage, and believe it or not, I still haven't shown you everything. Just imagine how much footage I have. My phone is just bursting, oozing with content, and can't wait to share it with you. I also appreciate that we have olive trees growing here, which is important because olive tree and olives is one of the uh, important 7 species, and the olive oil to be lit with. Olives are used for food, medicine, all sorts of things in Judaism. So it's a very important tree. It grows in abundance in the Holy Land. And in the Portuguese synagogue, there's one more thing that connects it. Well, actually, many more things connected to the Holy Land. The way the synagogue was, we were talking here 1670s, so 17th century. The building, well, there's one more thing that I wanted to make sure that I share with you. I am not doing the same tours as I do them in person. Obviously, it's all adjusted to a virtual format. And I'm pretty sure Stefan and also Mark have taken to this area. I'm doing it differently. I'm not saying I'm better or worse, it's just differently. And I want to just do my bits, with this growth of anti-Semitism. I just want to make sure I do my bits. I want the stories to be told. I want these places to be shown. And I'm so grateful that I can do this. So it's also quite symbolic to me that just last week, I think it was the 14th of April, in Israel, marked the Yom HaShoah, which is the day of the remembrance of the victims of the Holocaust and all the fallen in terrorist attacks. And exactly at that time, as the memorial siren went off around Israel, I was doing my Anne Frank's last walk tour, in-person one. I wasn't able to stop. I wasn't able to commemorate the victims, but I think I made up for it just by telling a lovely French family with 2 kids about the Holocaust and the life of Anne Frank. So I think I did my bit. Anyway, so what we're looking at is the Portuguese synagogue. The way it is built, I'm also going around. It was built as a grand building. It was one of the biggest synagogues in the world at that time. Well, at least let's say in the Northern Hemisphere. This is built in a way similar to what the Second Temple looked like. For those who did my tours of Jerusalem, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you can easily look it up. So the Second Temple was rebuilt by Herod, king of Judea, and it looked massive, huge, something similar to this building in a way. And around it, you see this, kind of a wall. In a way, this one-story building represents the walls of the Temple Mount. If you come closer, what I really like to sometimes bring to attention of my guests is that, we are now standing at a very big square. There's not really much going on. Normally there would be a lot of tourists, but it's already in the evening and tours are over. But there's a lot of things that you can just not really see, but they're here. For example, if I take a closer look over there, you will see that the wall of this building is kind of interesting shape. It's a little tilted, it's a little bit just different, irregular. It's not smooth, right? And it's very simple. There's a simple answer. The Netherlands, right? So a big part of this country is under the water, so lowlands, below the sea level, and big part of the country is located on the reclaimed land. And in general, there's so many issues with water. A lot of buildings need maintenance. A lot of buildings get tilted, deformed, and it takes a lot of time, effort, and a lot of euros. You see this building is taken care of. It's not going to collapse. It's nothing this kind, but you see it's a little bit adjusted to the conditions. Natalie, thank you so much for the tips. So the synagogue building, it hasn't really changed since 1675 when it was built by a group of Jewish architects, and up until now it doesn't have electricity. Every Shabbat, for every evening service, they light candles. They light candles for important ceremonies, and also, by the way, there are concerts held there from time to time. They lit up to 1,000 candles. and it looks magical. I attended one of the concerts with Catherine and Stefan were so kind to invite me and Misha to a concert in the synagogue, and it was magical. Why there was this massive synagogue in 1600s? Why was it built? Why here? And here is something that I would like to talk about, and maybe stop here for a second. I'll be roaming around, but basically filming the synagogue and also the area around it. So there is a word in Hebrew and also in Yiddish, makom, which means a place, right? But there is this word in Dutch, mokum. This word actually became kind of the second name of Amsterdam. As far as I understand, what I've been told by my friends here, that mokum is normally word familiar to people living in Amsterdam. People outside of Amsterdam are not always familiar with what it is, or they just don't know what this means. But every now and then I come across the name mokum, shops, eateries of all sorts. So what is this mokum? It's the place, the safe harbor for Jews. After 1492, in 1492, it's been a long day. Jews were forced to flee Spain. They first went to Portugal, and from Portugal they also were forced to flee, or they had an option to convert to Catholicism, which most of them preferred not to do. And they fled. Where would they go? They came to the Netherlands, because in the Netherlands historically people had way bigger problems and a much bigger enemy than person of a different faith. Water, right? So people try to work together to basically resist and tame this element, as well as the wind. And that's why here it was more about just whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever you believe in, just get up and do your work. That was the case. And when the Jews came here, I can't say that life was a plain sailing to them, or a bed of tulips. Yeah, I could have said a bed of roses. That's exactly what the idiom is. But I would say right now, amidst the high tulip season, right, was not a bed of tulips to them. When they came, there had already been system of guilds established. Guild of merchants, doctors, tailors, and so on and so forth. So technically speaking, they could not join those guilds. They were banned from becoming members of guilds, and if you were not a member of the guild, well, sorry, you can't really do the job. But there were some professions that were not gilded. If I can say that, probably not, but I don't care. We're going to say it this way, my way. Also in the 1600s, East Indies Company opened, and then the West Indies Company opened later on, which basically meant that a lot of new industries were launched and were open to people that were not included in the guilds, including diamond cutting. And Jews were there. One of the biggest diamond regions was Brazil. So they could speak Spanish, right? So those Sephardic Jews could speak Spanish, which was essential because the Dutch people originally could not speak Spanish. This is how a lot of Jewish people, not all of them, amassed great wealth. And some some companies, jewelry companies, diamond companies, are still ran by Jewish families. So this is why the community, the Sephardic community, started to grow and prosper, with a lot of members donating generously, since donation is a very big mitzvah, commandment, right? So this is a big deal here. Later on, much later, Ashkenazi Jews also started coming. And over there, we're looking at the former Ashkenazi synagogue. Right now, it's the Jewish Museum, Yod's Museum. I know I say it wrong, but what can I do? If I come a little closer, you're definitely going to see a little bit more, but right now the sun is also shining right in my face and not much I can see. So Ashkenazi Jews moved to the Netherlands around the 19th century. I was in like a big wave, especially after the pogroms. And as you probably know, Ashkenazi, so Eastern European Jews and Sephardic Jews coming from originally Spain and Portugal, and sometimes also the group of North African Jews also count into the Sephardic Jews, but it's not exactly right, but it's kind of a generic term. So they don't exactly get along. So they needed separate synagogues. So the two synagogues separated from each other, actually originally by the canal. So the land I'm walking on actually used to be a canal at some point. And that's with all these prospects and opportunities for the Jewish people, the Netherlands became the country with, well, it became the country with one of the biggest Jewish populations in Europe. And this is when Hitler knew what he was after. Despite the Dutch wanting to remain neutral in the Second World War, it didn't work because Hitler knew what he was doing. And the Nazis invaded. And when they invaded, it took them 5 days. On the 4th day, Hitler said, okay, man, okay, well, we're going to bomb you. We're going to destroy your cities until you give up. It only took them half a day to destroy big parts of the old city of Rotterdam. And the Dutch royal family and Dutch government just said, okay, we got it, Hitler. You can come, we go. So they dashed to the UK, and the country opened its virtual doors to the Nazis. Once they came, almost immediately, they started tightening screws for the Jewish people. And at some point, at this very square, well, it was part of the Jewish quarter. There were a lot of restrictions imposed on Jews. We'll talk about it, but I just would like to start moving around. I'd like to move to the next area, but it does require some stories, so I kind of needed a little introduction to this in this area, so that's why I'm not moving much. But I'm still trying to keep you focused. And at some point in February, on February 21st, something happened here. So the Nazis, which were in abundance in the Jewish quarter, by the way, I think I can show you a couple of images I'm using on my tour. Some of them had to be printed out really quickly, so I didn't even laminate them. Plus, lamination is not really a good thing ecologically, so I tried not to laminate much of the images. So the Jewish quarter was a restricted area. Non-Jews, well, the Jews were not allowed to leave it. There was a curfew. Jews were not allowed to shop in the stores where locals could shop, and well, kids were not allowed to go to any public schools, but Jewish schools, and many more. So what happened here on 21st of February? Well, it was kind of a point of no return. We know that in Germany, for example, the point of no return was Kristallnacht, the act of violence after which is within one night, hundreds of Jewish businesses, hundreds of Jewish lives were taken just in one night. Here it was in 1941, 21st of February. In this very street, this building is just over there. About more than 400 Jewish men were placed in line, were made to kneel, to go down on their knees, and then they were all placed, taken to the trucks, loaded on the trucks, and taken eventually to concentration camps, to never return. This was seen by, and this was, everyone knew about, obviously, everyone knew. And a couple days later, after this happened on the 25th of February, the dock workers went on strike. Dutch dock workers, not Jews, obviously, Dutch people, also trams, also trains, everyone went on strike. And, well, docks, ports, and transportation, it didn't work, it didn't operate. So the life of the country got paralyzed, which pissed off the Nazis so bad that they started shooting people in the streets, Dutch people. And it doesn't take much. You only need to kill one person so everyone else sees it and everyone else gets scared. So people freaked out. This was the first prominent big act of courage of Dutch people trying to resist the Nazis in order to protect the Jews. Jews made up around 10 population of Amsterdam. Imagine, before the Second World War, only in Amsterdam lived up to 85-90,000 Jews. In the entire country was about 120,000, something like that. So it was a lot. And they were pretty much assimilated. Again, simply because this country was a lot less about what you believe in, but more what you do and how you contribute to the society. That was about it. So it was a big deal, but people got scared. And after that, those who wanted to resist would go quiet. It doesn't mean they stopped helping. It doesn't mean they stopped resisting. No, but they would just have to do it quietly. We all know of French resistance, which is a big deal. It's really had a very good PR. This is true, and I think compared to French resistance, Dutch resistance gets a little bit underrated to me, but it's a big deal. And what I like about the Jewish Quarter, that here it's not all about just the Holocaust, the Holocaust and Holocaust survivors. It's also about the Dutch people, the Dutch resistance, and all those little stories. And also what I like about the monuments, because the Jewish Quarter is simply one big open air memorial complex to victims of the Holocaust and to resistance members. I also like that the Jewish Quarter is a very green area. Over there we're looking at the botanical garden, the plantage area, and also there is a zoo. I'm not sure we're going to reach that far today, but there's going to be part 2. And on the 22nd of April, I will be taking you to the area very close to the zoo to tell you more stories. As I'm on my way to a very important monument, and I will need to cross the street here, I'm going to share with you one more thing. Many of you know that I am a linguist, and the words mean a lot to me. So the word Holocaust, right? So Holocaust from ancient Greek actually means complete burning, which refers to sacrificial burning. I'm going underground, which is not really a big deal, but just in case we get a little disruption in the connection, it's just for a couple of seconds, hopefully. But I don't think it's going to happen. It's unlikely because it's nothing, as you can see. But anyway, so it's a complete burning, which is a very, I would say, on the spot, right? Because that's what Holocaust is about. But it's way more than just burning, you know, to me, and in general, it's way more than that. And I think that the Jewish people have come up with a way better term for it, Hashoah, which means catastrophe. And to me, it's exactly the catastrophe. It's not all just about the Jewish people. It's also about Roma, the Sinti people, the disabled people, homosexuals, and several other social groups that also were victims of Holocaust, that were also persecuted in less numbers, not 6 million people, no, but still, you know, every life mattered. Every loss of life is a tragedy. And it's also, to me, it's also about people who try to help. It's also about the resistance. It's also about those who collaborated. It's also about those who turned their blind eye to everything, or those who pretend that nothing had been happening. It's all that. Jews losing their lives, other social groups losing their lives, resistance members risking everything, which they really didn't have to do, but they still did that, right? How we all let this happen. Yeah, it's happening again. But anyway, so this is way more than that. So that's why I believe that catastrophe, Hashoah, is a much more powerful term, much more poignant and concise. Where are we? We have now crossed the street and we are by a very powerful monument, a names monument. In Judaism, it is believed that a person dies twice. First, when they actually die, right? The flesh dies. But the second time you die when your name is forgotten and never said anymore. So lezacher, that's what's written here in Hebrew. In Hebrew, you know, we read from right to left, in memoriam. And this is the monument to commemorate 102,000 Jewish people that perished in the Holocaust, the Jewish people from the Netherlands, Amsterdam, and the entire country. Just imagine that only 5,000 people returned to, 5,000 Jews returned to Amsterdam after the Holocaust. And altogether, about 10,000, 13,000. Each of these bricks have their names, the birth date, and the age at which they died. You can find all sorts of ages here. You can find months, you can find days, because Nazis couldn't care less. And you were in a far worse situation if you were a kid, if you were a child, if you were a baby, or if you were the elderly, because you meant absolutely nothing to them. You know, kids, the elderly, they would be sent to gas chambers immediately because they were useless. Here we're looking at the section with the name Frank, because yeah, we just happen to know the story of Anne Frank, and this book written by a diary written by a teenage girl is one of the most read books in the world. Yeah, here we are. Look over here, there are so many Franks, and this is the Anne Frank that we need to see. Annelies Frank, born in 1929, so she was 15 years old when she died. She died in Auschwitz. I'm sure you all know the story. Oh look, Branko Frank, 5 years old, 7 years old, 11 years old. My son turns 11 next year. Horrible. 1 year old. So Annelies Frank was in a way very lucky to have lived just a little longer, but it was so unfortunate that when they were discovered after 2 years in hiding, they were sent to Westerbork internment camp, kept there for several weeks until they would be taken to Auschwitz. And the train they were taken to Auschwitz was the very last train to ever depart to Auschwitz. I guess you understand. There are a lot of stones here, as many of you know, but still I treat this tour as a general history tour, and I assume that we're here all to learn. Many of the things might be familiar to you, but I would say still this general things, such as we put stones, so Jewish people, they light candles to commemorate the departed, and also they lay stones on their graves. We're not entirely sure why this is the tradition. Maybe, possibly because this is, well, because in the desert you don't really get a lot of flowers, but you're likely to find stones. Plus, stones are not going to be carried away with the wind. They're not going to dry and disintegrate like flowers tend to, so that's the thing. Also, as you can see here, above these names, you see this mirror structures, right? So these mirror structures, if you have an aerial view, it will look exactly like this inscription in Hebrew, Lezacher. You don't get to see it here because, well, you need to look at it from a bird's eye view, but you have the idea. There are even stones. Okay, let me just make sure the chat is working and everything is fine. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much, everyone. The chat is a little bit quiet, but I assume it's not because we're having a connectivity issues or anything, but simply because there's not so much to say, but just contemplate, right? Yes, of course, Dolly. You put the stone on the grave because you visit the grave and you leave it there, so you have been there. You remember these people. Until you remember these people, until you forget these people, they kind of alive, right? That's the case. You can take the stones and you can place them wherever you want to. And I'm going to do my bit as well. Let's just find someone here. Doesn't have to be Anne Frank. Anne Frank is remembered. Okay, Leon Dehan, 10 years old. My son, Grisha, is 10 years old. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Thank you so much. You wouldn't believe it. I have done 2-3 hour tours back to back, telling all those stories. But I broken just now. It's not easy. It's not. But it's important. So we go on. Over here, it's not exactly the most beautiful area. These buildings are from the 70s. And it has nothing to do. So there used to be a lot of Jewish homes, traditional brick, narrow buildings, but they're gone. They're gone not because the Amsterdam was bombed. Amsterdam was not bombed. Rotterdam was. Only one day. But, well, here the story is very simple. They were building metro. And back in the day, they didn't have a more advanced technology, but just tearing down old buildings to lay the metro line. Now there are way better technologies, but back in the days it was not possible. Okay, so but the thing is that the Jewish quarter doesn't really look the same. Many buildings are gone. And again, it's not because of bombing, it's because, well, first of all, there were not so many people that returned, unfortunately, right? So, as I said, about 5,000 people returned out of 85, 90,000 who lived, Jewish people who lived in Amsterdam. And when they returned, there had already been someone else, some Dutch people living in their houses. And it was the best case scenario. In many cases, there was actually nowhere to return to. The houses were no longer there because they had been, well, not exactly destroyed, but kind of disassembled, if I can say that, because of the hunger winter. So the last winter of the war was especially cold. And, well, the Dutch people living in the city would be coming to the Jewish quarter trying to get as much wood as possible from those old houses where nobody had been living anyway. And eventually a lot of buildings were simply just frames. And that was it. So many buildings are not around here. But these are. And the buildings on the other side of the new Keizergracht, new Kaiser's Canal, they all used to be inhabited by the Jewish people. And what I like about the monuments here in the Jewish quarter, these monuments don't really have to be big. They don't really have to be seen from everywhere. They are very subtle. They are inconspicuous and almost invisible, but they're here. Yeah, also we're looking at beautiful houseboats, well, boathouses, sorry, but I'm talking about the shadow wall. I really like how this uh, pedal, tulip pedal is here. So what we have here is the address. So this monument is called Shadow Wall, Shadow Monument, and we are standing here on this side of the new Kaisergracht, but in fact it's about these buildings on the other side of the canal. So here, for example, in house number 46 lived these people: Blum family, Kirkuk family, and they were all taken to Auschwitz. Most people from Amsterdam would be taken to Auschwitz. Some would be taken to Sobibor, some to Bergen-Belsen, mainly Auschwitz. So they were all of different ages. Aaron was only 7 years old, and families started to disappear all of a sudden. For a long time, okay, those were gazillions of restrictions that were imposed on Jews of Amsterdam. Altogether, within a year or so, the Nazis came up with 1,500 of regulations and bans that they imposed on the Jews. I'm just giving you just a couple of them, just a few of them. So Jews had to wear, as Anne Frank put it in the diary, a conspicuous yellow star. They were not allowed to leave their homes after a certain hour in the evening. They were not allowed to shop in any stores but Jewish stores. They were not allowed to drive their own cars. They were not allowed to use public transport either. They were not allowed to ride bicycles even. That's why when Anne Frank and her family were on their way to their hiding place in Prinsengracht, they could only walk. And Anne Frank didn't live in this neighborhood. They originally were from Frankfurt. They fled Germany when Hitler got to power. And when they came, they settled together with many other compatriots from Germany. They settled in the area quite far from here and quite far from the city center. So altogether, that walk lasted for about an hour. It was a hot day, it was a hot summer day, but because they were not allowed to take big bags with them or suitcases, Anne had to put a lot of clothing on herself, several layers, because she had no idea for how long she was going into hiding. And I bet she couldn't even she couldn't have imagined it would last for 2 years. For almost 2 years, Anne Frank with her family would be hiding behind the office building. But it was a good story, until they were discovered, because they were quiet. They were fed. They had food. They had people helping them. Many people who lived in this area couldn't boast the same. People could be just picked up from the street. And all of a sudden, so yesterday, your classmate was here with you, sitting just next to you at the desk. And then the next day, he or she would be gone and would never be seen again. After the curfew, Jewish people were not allowed to leave homes. Why? Because this is when Gestapo would be coming after them, taking them, and you know the story. So normally, the people would be taken to internment centers, first in Amsterdam, and then they would be taken to Westerbork. Stefan has done a number of tours there already, and those were the tours that I couldn't really watch. well, I watched them in, well, not all at once because it was a little bit too difficult. And then from there, as I said, mainly to Auschwitz, but also to a few other camps. Again, now, right now, for example, I'm looking at a dozen of memorials, dozen of monuments, and they're not really here. I mean, you don't really see them unless you actually look under your feet. You look over there. So the Stoppelplein, if I pronounce it right, the stumbling stones. Have a look. This is what Step has spoken so much about. I have spoken so much about, but this is a lovely initiative of the German artist based in Cologne, or at least he started it in Cologne about 10 years ago. So these small brass plaques can be placed free of charge. You only just need to pay for the materials. They will be placed by homes of people, but the people who live in the home that originally belonged to the Jews. All these records are available. There's a big database online. Normal stumbling stones would have the names of people, their birth date, years, date when they were deported, when they were taken to camps, and when they were killed. Sometimes it would be a student camp, sometimes just Middle Europe, which means people died in transit, or people were on their death march in 1944, 1945. So when after the D-Day, after the Normandy operation, when things started to go south for the Nazis, they panicked and started evacuating some of the camps and transferring, replacing a lot of Jews. So it was a death march. So many people died just at that point. But also there's another monument which I think is so easy to pass by. These little windows. Again, it's just an initiative of the people living here. Here wohnen, here lived. We have even photographs. Alexander, how do I, Grisiard, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but you kind of have the idea. These people lived here, families. There's even a QR code. Maybe you can even, if you take a screenshot and they can later on scan the QR code, you will be taken to a website where all the addresses, all the names and photographs and the story of the lives of these people are told. It's so easy to pass by, but these are the most powerful monuments to me. Okay, so let's move on. We are going deeper into the Jewish quarter. And I'm so happy that eventually the rain didn't start. Just about, oh, hi Charlie, hi dear. Oh, it says, I'm Charlie here. Hello, oh, you're so cute. I'm so happy to see you. I really need that. I wish I could also give you some cuddles, but I cannot. But at least I've been said meow a couple of times, right? Well, I've been told meow meow, so that's okay. Meow away, Anna. Go on with your sad stories. Oh, it's probably only now that I start actually realizing how difficult this day has been, and it's not even over yet. Well, these are not easy tours. Okay, but we go on. So the Jewish quarter now, this Jewish quarter, the historic Jewish quarter, actually has very, very few Jews in it. Thank you so much, whoever you are, for the coffees. I couldn't see your name. Notifications come and go so quickly. But thank you so much, much appreciated. Here on the top of the chat, you see a link. It's a pinned link for the links to buy me a coffee, to send me a PayPal donation, and also to my website where you can find, as most of you know, but I'll say it again because the recording will be there in open access and someone else might want to check out the links. There's also a link to my website where you can find my schedule. schedule, my complete schedule. I do not share the links for the B2B tours because those are different sort of events. They will be doing 5 this week. Imagine 5 in the coming week. Hi. Yeah, so but as I said, right now in this Jewish quarter, very few Jews actually live. There are, well, several thousand Jews living in Amsterdam. So the synagogue always has a minyan, which is the minimum number of men, not women, men required for the service. Wisteria smells incredible here. Oh wow. Richard, thank you so much for a coffee as well. Oh, this is very uplifting. This is the tulip season and it's a little bit too cold for roses, but we have already a couple of roses. I'm not sure if you see it well. I'll also try to zoom in. There you go. Rose number 1. There's another white one over there. Okay, yeah, like that over there. Well, you have an idea now. So that's why there now, actually it's only the name and the monuments. It's mostly just locals living here. It's a very upscale neighborhood, very quiet, very green, and I'm so happy well, today didn't have to be present much in the older area, in the canal belt, because the city is now swarming with tourists, which is okay, I understand. It's the tulip season, everyone wants to see the city and the tulips, and yeah, I get the point, but I'd rather be here in the Jewish quarter. A little bit depressed, a little bit down, but it's much better here. We are now passing by the Plantage, which is the botanical garden. It's a very green place. There is some construction going on, and it's not looking just as beautiful as it usually does, but it's still lovely and charming. Well, again, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you the zoo, but I will try. Or I will show it to you next time, actually. Over here, well, technically speaking, there are so many monuments that could have been shown even in the vicinity, but I have a few that I would like to show you today. And on the 22nd, we're going to see some other sites in the Jewish quarter. Well, the Jews living in the Netherlands, especially in Amsterdam, were actually very well integrated in the community. Well, 10% of the population, that's a lot. Thank you so much, Dolores. This is a lot of people. And many of them were actually quite secular. There were a lot of mixed marriages. Not too many, but quite a lot. And for the Nazis, well, it was quite important to preserve the lives of the white population. You know, white women, beautiful blonde hair, blue eyes. But oh no, some of them were married to Jews, and some of them were pregnant from the Jews, which is a horrible, horrible thing, right? So there were options. There were Jewish doctors, gynecologists that were forced to do abortions and sterilizations, which is a mind-boggling thing to do. It's not so easy to talk about, but these women were just, well, they weren't given many options. Their marriages were still pretty much doomed, but their lives could have been saved. And yeah, so these are the choices you had to make. A lot of, there are a lot of stories that Jewish doctors had to do what the Nazis made them do. And this story is not about, we're not judging here. No, it's not about judging people. They all had their own circumstances, and also they were not given any other options. Well, non-Jewish doctors could not treat Jewish patients, and Jews could not go to Dutch doctors. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't even go to the park, We are now going there. I'm going to cross here now. Look at the sun. Beautiful, so green, so cozy. Chilly though. Wertheim Park. It's named after a very well respected resident of the Jewish quarter, who was also a very rich man who donated a lot and well, did a lot for the Jewish community. That's why the park was named after him. When the Nazis came, obviously they renamed the park, and then they also closed this park for the Jewish people. They were not allowed to go to the parks together with non-Jews. Oh no, this was not at all. I'm glad there are no kids that I can actually film. There are only dogs, a lot of dogs, which I think I can film. They're really cute. It's a very small park, really. It's not really much, not really. Oh, oh, it is cute. So doggies are having their fun. Ah, oh, this is cute. Ah, so cute. Oh, it's a much needed thing. I really needed to see this. Yes, so it's a small park, right? Not really much going on here, but it was, well, just a place to a respite, right? It was at least something. And well, Jews could not come here. They've always been able to. This was their park. This is where a lot of kids grew up. This is where all the people living in this neighborhood who always see this park from their windows, but they could not come here. Which was heartbreaking, right? And actually here, not so many non-Jewish people live here. Actually, they didn't. So who was this park for? That's a big question. And it took them about a year eventually, you know, for the Nazis to finally open this park to the Jews. But the problem is that to many people who wanted and would have loved to go to the park, it was no longer relevant because they had already been deported. And as you just roam around this park, it's also very easy to pass by a very important, a very poignant monument. And this place is also quite emotional. My tourists today, well, they would burst into tears normally at this point because we are by the Auschwitz monument. Again, you don't really see much, and you can only see this monument once you are in the park. Well, unless you know it. It's written there. I will try to zoom in and you will be able to see it, maybe, possibly. No more Auschwitz. Well, this is a relatively new monument, and it's a broken glass monument, right? So many people just say it's a broken glass monument, it's a broken mirrors monument, but it's way more than that. Some people always ask me, okay, was it broken by someone? Was it vandalism? What happened here? Well, no, this was the intention of the artist. So the thing is that underneath this shattered glass, shattered mirrors, is the soil from Auschwitz. So soil full of ashes of millions of people, right? Again, not only Jews, but predominantly Jews. And it's here, right next to me, the ashes of the people. And I think that this is one of the most poignant monuments. Well, the name's monument is really big, it's really powerful, but this one is quite small. But what I like about, I mean, if I can like a monument, well, of such kind, but well, let's just look around a little bit. This is a very beautiful, quiet, very expensive neighborhood. And technically, nothing here tells us the story of Holocaust. Of course resistance happens. Of course, Barbara. I'm not saying that nobody stands up for the Jewish people. I'm not saying that, well, I'm not saying things are that bad, and resistance can be in many ways. I would say that in a way, I am also the member of resistance. Hello. Hello. So again, you are in this neighborhood, and if you're just a tourist, well, and you're not really familiar with the story, you're just roaming around, which is okay, right? But if you don't know, you don't know the stories, you don't see it. It's like it's not here, as if this has never happened, right? As if this had never happened, but it happened. And it might be a nice, sunny, lovely day, and well, the sun may be reflecting from the windows of this very expensive apartment that cost a couple millions of euros. I think so, around that, at least 1 million euros, probably definitely more than that. But something will never be fixed, like all these cracks in the mirror. That's what it is. And yes, lest we forget, right? Auschwitz, no more. Here rest ashes of, well, millions of people, right? So this is the story, and I would like to go over the chat a little bit. I think I can, well, this is where we would like to wrap this up, and I think it's the perfect timing. I don't have energy to overrun today, and there is a lot more that I could share, and I will do it next time on the 22nd of April. Let me go over the chat a little bit to see what I missed. I'm just commenting. You're doing a very good job addressing the topic. Yeah, Barbara, of course, I'm not saying you said something contrary to what I've been saying. You're very right. I agree. So that there is still resistance, and unfortunately, we need this resistance because of the things that are happening in the world. And again, many people just pretend they don't see it. Many people just don't bother to open books and read things as well, right? And some people just don't care. So that's why after all these tours, after a very long day, which started at 7 in the morning, I'm still here doing this because I know there are people who want to know. And I believe that in a way, we all are resistance members in our own ways. So I'm not talking about geopolitics here. I'm not talking about all these political things. I'm just talking about people being people, right? People being people. I think this is probably the dog's night here. Probably in the mornings it's children that come, and in the evenings it's dogs. I think they're going to have a dog party here, which is amazing. Well, thank you so much everyone for joining me. It has been not easy. I still have 2 more tours to run today. I'll make sure I recharge my batteries. Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your interest in the tours. Thank you so much for your support. So the 2 links are everywhere. It is very emotional, and you know, it also, I don't know if it's my memory or it's just something that, well, the moment I came to this neighborhood, all the stories came flooding back. It's like memories. I don't know, because, well, after I lived here for 3 months 2 years ago, I did so much reading and I did a lot of virtual tours, and I think the best way you learn is when you teach about these things. So thank you so much. I'll see you for part 2 on the 22nd of April, and tonight I will see you for 2 different tours. I need a change of topic. Yeah, I do. So I'm taking it to St. Petersburg and to Jerusalem, but it's going to be about the Christian neighborhood. It's going to be about American colony, a very interesting story. 19th century Jerusalem. Yeah, and yeah, I'm so sorry I had to change the timings because I my priority is to help Stefan and Catherine to do the work that they want me to do, that they need somebody to do, and that's why there's been a little change in my hours. But I'm leaving soon, so it's gonna be fixed. It's going to be a normal starting from two, well, in the weekend. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your interest in these tours. And I will see you tonight or on the 22nd. Will be great in both cases, whichever is convenient. Bye bye.